Housing is for people to live in. It's fine for people to invest in it, but it's for people to live in.
That's the mayor of Canada's largest city, Toronto, which saw the fastest pace of house price growth of any major city in the world. What's driving these skyrocketing housing prices? Well, it's all part of chasing the Canadian dream, but at what cost? I'm Lorna Dueck.
I'm Sheldon Neal.
And I'm Molly Thomas.
And you're watching Context. After a mission trip to Africa, the So family decided they needed to downsize in order to live debt-free and give more back. So they sold their house in a red-hot real estate market, and did a miracle happen? Find out. In BC's sky-high rental market, author Claudia Rosetta says God is involved in where we live. A renter herself and finding it difficult, she says instead of giving into despair, she decided to do something about it. Coming up, a major cleanup effort continues after floods swept across Quebec and Ontario. To Molly Thomas now with the news.
Thanks so much, Lorna. Floodwaters continue to wreak havoc across La Belle Province. Quebec's premier says water levels are starting to recede, but for thousands of families, that damage is already done. Towns look more like swimming pools right now. Montreal and Laval remain under a state of emergency. About 4,000 homes are completely flooded and almost 3,000 people have been evacuated. Now, around the province, 126 landslides have been reported thus far. Quebec's public security minister responded to the disaster.
It's already the most serious in a few decades. Why? Because we're going to receive a lot of rainfalls over the next 3 days. And because of the combined forces of many factors that have happened coincidentally, this situation will last for a number of weeks.
Canada's Department of National Defence has deployed 2,300 troops across Quebec. The Royal Canadian Navy is also operating in Montreal. Now, the federal government is trying to adapt to the enormity of this flood. Public Safety Minister Ralph Goodale says climate change makes it tricky to plan.
These kinds of disasters, sadly, are likely to occur at a more rapid pace in the future. They're likely to be larger. They're likely to be more costly. And therefore, what we thought in all good faith 5 years ago might well have been a good, solid, resilient plan may not be resilient enough as we go into the future.
The Red Cross continues to collect money for the victims. $1.7 million has been collected so far. If you want to help people in Quebec, visit the website on your screen. Over to BC, where a historic election has taken place. For the first time in more than 60 years, Christy Clark's Liberals now have a minority government. Now, the Liberals won 43 seats, the NDP 41, which means the Greens now hold the balance of power with 3 big seats. Now, even more interesting, the NDP took home one riding by just 9 votes, which means a recount is likely to be called there. That means absentee votes from soldiers overseas could change that final result. Here's the catch. Those votes won't be counted for another 2 weeks. That's the news as we've seen it. Lorna, back to you.
Thank you, Molly. And our prayer and sympathy goes out to those victims of the floods. The waters are finally receding, and that is good news. Now, back to our skyrocketing housing market. That's the story for today. Sheldon Neal sets the scene with the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation. Sheldon.
Well, here to give us a sense of Canada's skyrocketing housing market, how we got here, and strategies to make things better. Joining me now is Donna Senagama, Principal Toronto Market Analyzer with the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. Donna, some want to or hope to home buyers are being shut out of the market. What needs to be done to effectively cool this red-hot market?
What we are seeing in the housing market, particularly, I would say, till about a year or so ago, it's a case of where even now, it's a case of where demand is outstripping the existing supply, particularly for low-rise types of homes, such as single detached and townhouses. Those are highly sought after, and there's just not enough product out there in the market. So it's a case of, having said that, the market is, in terms of prices, the what you see in the downtown core are at the highest levels, but there are products out there within the GTA in the outer lying municipalities where the price point is far more favorable for a first time buyer looking to enter the home ownership market.
You're talking price points there. Is a 15% tax on foreign purchases in the hope of cooling skyrocketing housing markets in Canada, Ontario, enough to make a difference? I'm wondering.
That's a policy question, and to be honest with you, we don't have the data on the magnitude of foreign investment. So for me to make a comment on that would be purely speculative. So I like to just refrain from that because we don't have the data on the magnitude of foreign investment here in the GTA, and therefore any effect as a result of any tax it's hard to predict.
But still, Donna, I'm wondering, is there an ideal scenario that we can look to cool the housing market? Because one can only assume prices can't continue to climb, but eventually there has to be some kind of breaking point. So can you still speak to that?
What's really propelled the housing market over the last 15 years has been low interest rates. We've been in a low mortgage rate environment for as long as I can remember, at least for the past decade. So if there's going to be a real softening in the market, rates will have to start going up, and then the overall job picture needs to change. And if we're ultimately home ownership is closely tied to job growth and employment prosperity. So if that's going to be impacted, then it'll be the real drag on home ownership demand.
Well, thank you so much, Donna. I appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
That was Donna Senagama, Principal Toronto Market Analyzer with the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. She joined me from Toronto.
Joining us now is Claudia Rosetta with Mission Fest Vancouver. She's the author of a provocative article, A Reliable God versus an Unpredictable Market. Claudia, thanks for joining Context. And why bring God into Vancouver's crisis on lack of affordable housing?
Thank you for having me, Lorna. Well, I think it's so easy for me personally, as a renter myself and struggling in this crisis as well, to lose a sense of identity of how God is involved in all this, and maybe be going to despair or maybe cynicism. So just seeing how our understanding of God and helps us see how we can be good news for these housing crisis is what inspired me to write the article. How can we be, as followers of Christ, good news for this housing crisis when we hear is basically not very encouraging news?
So you actually challenge that if you're a follower of Jesus, you should be engaged in creating community, even in a challenging housing market. How is that going down with the church community in Vancouver?
Well, there are some very good news happening as part of that. I happen to be the blessed member of a church in the east side of Vancouver. And our church has decided to donate the parking lot to build social housing. So it's very easy to fall into the temptation of maybe handing over church properties to private development, but our church has chosen to donate the land for social housing. And I was able to also interview some other faith communities, church communities particularly, who have chosen to do the same, to take some initiative and provide some solutions for this issue.
What does the Bible have to actually say about housing?
I think the Bible is the perfect place to find stories that can illustrate the struggle of housing. I love how it first starts by, in Genesis, reminding us who is the ultimate landlord here. So God, as the creator of the earth, owns the land. So he's the ultimate landlord, as a benevolent landlord. So we, as his image bearers, we are called to be also benevolent landlords, or good tenants, if we happen to be tenants. And then as we go through the story of Exodus, we understand, what does it mean to have a home when we have to constantly move. Like we live in a reality where large number of families have to consider moving constantly for different reasons, housing being one important one. So in the story of Exodus, we see a God who's involved in this. So he takes out his people through the desert, and these people have to pack down and move every time the cloud, which is represented God's presence, moved out.
You've connected us to the idea that God moves with us. Claudia, your church isn't the only one in West Vancouver there that is making changes. Your church gave its parking lot for affordable housing. There's other churches doing social housing projects, one building a 20-story building, another a 12-story building. Remarkable work. Thank you for reminding us today that there is a God perspective to the affordable housing crisis. Claudia, thank you.
There's good news. You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Okay, now to Sheldon Neal with an update from the other side of the country, a real estate agent in Toronto.
Thank you so much, Lorna. Some Canadians are finding it near impossible to break into the housing market, and skyrocketing prices are shutting some hopeful new home buyers out. I spoke with a realtor in the field to get a layout of one of Canada's booming markets. Yes, I'm talking about Toronto. We begin by taking a look at the fluctuating costs of properties.
Let's kind of look at a property and say, you know, a typical property, what it might value at now and what it might have looked like maybe 3 years ago, so we can kind of see that jump in price.
Well, this is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo with parking and a locker located in Toronto's West End. It's currently listed for $549,000, and it's likely to go for quite a bit more. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if it went for $100,000 over asking.
And 3 years ago, what would have it been priced that would have been significantly lower, so we could just see that?
Definitely. I mean, a unit like this, when someone bought it pre-construction, which would have been roughly 5 years ago, they'd probably be paying closer to $320,000.
Wow, wow. Now, that's for a condo. For viewers who are watching, they're like, hey, I don't want to buy a condo. I'm looking at just a detached property.
Yeah.
Are they experiencing that same pivot in price jump over the years as well?
Definitely, yeah, especially in the last year. I mean, Toronto's been experiencing double-digit growth for the last 3 years at least. And in the last year, we experienced roughly 33% growth over last year.
Is there any hope to cool this housing market? Is there any hope?
Well, hope, I mean, there's always hope. Yeah. I think the rate of growth that we're experiencing, especially 33% in the long term, that's not sustainable. I do feel that there's going to be, I guess if you'd like to call it a cooling in terms of the rate of growth year over year, not continuing to increase by such astronomical numbers. But in terms of a cooling, I don't see prices going down.
Wow. And what strategies do you think new home buyers who are looking at this, watching this and saying, okay, it's not going to go down, it's going to keep rising, condo or housing, what strategies can they take?
It's really good to have a realtor by their side that's educated about the process and can really guide them through and prepare them emotionally for the process.
Wow.
Because, I mean, most of the buyers that I work with, at least, you're offering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times sometimes before you're successful on a bid. And for a new buyer, that's extremely stressful. They're already going into a new market that they don't have experience with. And then to fall in love with a property enough to offer every last penny on it, only not to get it over and over again, can really, really take a toll.
I want to read something here. The federal government is on side with the Ontario government to tax foreign home buyers in and around Toronto, kind of as a strategy to cook the market, get things under control, but it says it won't be replicated on a national level because it's unnecessary in the vast majority of the country. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts personally are it's unnecessary in Toronto as well and in the Toronto market. There's been quite a bit of data that's come out from the Toronto Real Estate Board about foreign ownership statistics. You know, one survey said less than 5%, another was closer to 2.5%. And of the properties owned by foreign ownership properties, a lot of them are actually people in the United States. And a lot of them as well are those that are new to Canada that are purchasing that property for their primary residence. So I think if they are to go ahead and apply it, I think it might create a little bit of panic, and I've been sensing that people are asking what's going to happen, and they're looking to Vancouver. What happened in Vancouver? Well, there was a bit of a panic and a slow, but that market rebounded, within a few months. I think in the long run, it's not really going to help the problem in any way. It'll bring a little bit more money in for the government, but I don't think as much as they're probably expecting.
Wow,
Yeah.
very a lot to think about. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
We really appreciate it.
A remarkable exchange of putting the heart back into the housing market as a buyer and seller hear each other and decide to undercut greed. Coming up, a Vancouver writer talks about her city's red-hot real estate market and says actually God is involved in where we live.
Here are some of the stories making headlines this week.
Voters turning their outrage into online worldwide trends.
Why healthcare workers kill.
The opioid crisis is a health crisis.
So how do we weed out the noise?
Well, this is an issue our next guest is an expert on.
We have a lineup of religious leaders from the Christian, Muslim, and Jewish faith communities.
I'm Lorna Dueck.
And I'm Sheldon Neal.
And I'm Molly Thomas.
And you're watching Context Live. Well, this is an issue our next guest is an expert on.
We have a lineup of religious leaders from the Christian, Muslim, and Jewish faith communities.
I'm Lorna Dueck.
And I'm Sheldon Neal.
And I'm Molly Thomas.
And you're watching Context Live. Well, if you're looking for a one-bedroom apartment in Vancouver, it'll cost you an average $1,900 a month. That's the highest level on record for that city. In Toronto, it's not far behind with an $1,800 price tag for a similar unit. Molly Thomas knows all about it, and she sat down to gather a group of millennials to find out how are young people coping with sky-high rental costs.
Welcome to my downtown Toronto apartment, which is my home away from home, I guess. And my roommate and I live here, 600 square feet, and we pay about $300 above market value, and our rent is now going up $200 a month. I got millennials around me because I want to figure out how other people are making it work in Toronto. Rachel, I know you are in near Liberty Village. Give me an idea, like you're a young professional, we're in the same kind of spot. Is it any better for you?
You know what, it's not. We ended up in Liberty Village because we had a price point and we were just looking south in the city. I work downtown, I needed an easy commute.
Sure.
And for our price point, we found spaces that were 500 square feet up to about 650, 700 square feet max. I'm married, we need more space,
Sure.
and we just couldn't find it.
Actually, you are in a little bit more of the student area of town. College and Bathurst. Give me an idea. I mean, is it better for you? Are you finding better prices? Is it affordable?
No, it is not. So when I moved to that area 7 years ago to go to school, it was considered a semi-student area.
Okay.
Around this, you could find a decent place around $700 a month. I'm now paying $1,050 a month with a roommate. And so the area is really just, it's increasing, it's becoming more upscale. We had a condo development just south of where I live on Palmerston Avenue. And when these condos develop, businesses become more upscale and more expensive businesses open up, prices go up, and it pushes students out.
What are you going to do? I mean, what are the options if you are a part of that push out?
The way I'm able to afford rent in that area is basically spending money that isn't mine, student loans or student lines of credit. So it's fine if prices are going up and student house affordability is going down.
Right.
If we had access to some sort of income immediately, but as is a big problem in the city and in the country, millennials don't have the same access to income as previous generations.
Condo prices have gone up by 12%, which is one of the highest raises ever in this city, and we've also seen like a 1% vacancy rate, which is really, really low. So it's not only really expensive, but there's not many places to live. Talani, you are living interestingly, hostel style almost, 3 ladies in one room in St. Jamestown. What the heck? How are you doing this?
Well, initially I was like, no way. Like the max I can do is 2 people.
Sure.
And then I heard how much it was going to be, being 3 people. I was like, you know what? I'm willing to like do a test run, like do it for a month or 2, see if it works out. And actually it's pretty great. I was pleasantly surprised. it wouldn't have worked out really well if I lived with two other girls, but it just so happens that we are in sync, and there are actually benefits to
It's interesting because
sharing a room.
more people in the world at large probably live like that
Yes.
than live like most of us in North America, so separated. Rachel, I gotta ask though, I mean,
Yeah.
you're the only married person at this table. I assume you want a family, you know, coming up. Do you ever think, you know, finding a place in Toronto for that family is a possibility?
Not at the moment. Most people are well, we want our kids to have access to play, to a yard, to a park. We can't afford any of the places where that exists in the city.
So, Lana, give me an idea for anyone watching at home thinking, that girl's crazy, she's living with two other people in one room, because if the prices increase, a lot of us are going to end up doing what you're doing. So tell our viewers at home what you love about that.
I guess it's just doing life together. Like if you lived with people that were just roommates and you just, you know, lived with them and tried to live a separate life, it would be very, very frustrating. You're not going to get your personal space. You're not going to have enough room for like a big bag of milk, etc.
Sure.
But if you live as a family, it can actually work and be beautiful.
Okay, Molly, lots of real life there.
Yeah.
But Ontario is trying to cool the market there. Tell us the government's new proposed strategy.
Yeah, so they have 16 proposed measures. Here are the two, though, I think we need to hone in on. So first of all, rent control. This is a big one. Before the strategy, rent control only applied to private apartments built before 1991. But now, all those new condos like the one I live in, it's now applied to that as well, 1.5% increase only a year. Advocates say this will help millennials, you know, find affordable housing, but opponents are saying, actually, no, it's going to hurt the market because it doesn't incentivize builders to build.
Okay.
So that's a big problem. And then there's also a non-resident tax that's new, something we saw in BC.
And that was a surprise tax there, and it actually worked, didn't it?
Well, I would say short term, right? So short term, if we take a look at this graphic, foreign buyers transactions dipped sharply after that tax was introduced.
Huge.
It was massive. Home prices also fell 24%. But here's the catch, Lorna. Vancouver home sales and prices are now inching back up in recent months. So can this really have a long-term cooling impact? Right now, it's really not looking like it.
All right. Well, thank you, Molly. Well, stay with us. There's more to come. It's not always about money when it comes to buying and selling a home. Coming up, a family outside of Toronto who were selling their home gave another family a deal of a lifetime. Well, this is an issue our next guest is an expert on.
We have a lineup of religious leaders from the Christian, Muslim, and Jewish faith communities.
I'm Lorna Dueck.
And I'm Sheldon Neal.
And I'm Molly Thomas.
And you're watching Context Live.
Here are some of the stories making headlines this week.
Voters turning their outrage into online worldwide trends.
Why healthcare workers killed.
The opioid crisis is a health crisis.
So how do we weed out the noise?
Well, this is an issue our next guest is an expert on.
We have a lineup of religious leaders from the Christian, Muslim, and Jewish faith communities.
I'm Lorna Dueck.
And I'm Sheldon Neal.
And I'm Molly Thomas.
And you're watching Context Live. Well, what if breaking a bidding war in Canada's hottest housing market just requires heart and compassion? Dr. Ju and Rosanna, you are an amazing story, the So family, of exactly that. Tell us, Ju saying, how this happened.
Our heart was always to downsize, become debt-free, so we could use more of our finances and our time to give away. And after we did that, we entered a bidding war to buy the house that we looked for.
Okay, you're pretty young, both of you, to think about living mortgage-free. Rosanna, why do you want to live mortgage-free? Why do you want to give money away? You're a doctor, you're an educational therapist. Why?
Yeah, because God has brought us through this journey this past year. We took our family to Uganda on a 6-week mission trip. We came home as a family thinking we have too much. And then as you start reading the Word, and we read a couple of books, you start hearing, what is the Lord asking us as believers, right? Take care of the poor and needy, look after the widows. So we thought, what are we going to do? What is God asking us to do? The Lord was leading us to a place of, let's become mortgage-free so that we can build His kingdom.
Tell us about the drama now that happened in Oakville, because you are in a bid with 13 bids. And you wrote a letter to I didn't realize buyers are now sweetening the pot with heart-touching stories?
Yeah, you know, the housing market is crazy now. So a lot of houses that we were looking at, they would be on sale and sell within a few days and sell 100, 200,000 over asking. And so that was the market that we were going into. And we were quite apprehensive.
Okay, so whose idea was it to write a letter? Your idea, perhaps?
It was mine, only because when you go into an offer, your name is just on a piece of paper with a number, and I just wanted to share our story, make it a little personal, right? This is who we are. This is the family that wants to make your home our forever home. So we just wanted to share our story with them.
So you put the humanity back in this crazy housing market, that it's not just about investments. And so the Croft family who owned this home, they actually felt they needed to say, I can do this with you. Tell me about their response then.
Yeah, what an amazing family, right? Where their concern really wasn't about how much can we get, but who's going to look after our neighbor, right? Who's going to shovel his driveway? And I think them as being believers, they too were listening to the Lord and praying, going, God, lead us to the right family who will take care of our neighbors, and amazing family to do that.
So Jumeng and Rosanna, are you saying that God is interested in the housing market?
God is interested in the little everything. He is interested in the little things, and this just for us as a family shows that God is bigger than any seller's market.
Incredible. I want to bring your beautiful children on. 4 kids who downsized from a big house of 4,000 to a 2,000.
Just under, yeah.
Just under 2,000 square feet. And we never get children on context, so this is really great. And I'm just so touched that both of you as families, seller and buyers, said it is more than money. It is about creating a realistic, a livable environment so that income isn't just caught up with on status and image, right, Doctor?
Yeah, you know, we live in a society where it's all about the biggest, the best, the newest. And especially in my occupation, there's a lot of people who drive really nice cars.
As doctors.
And have really nice houses. And, you know, we just wanted to say, you know, you don't have to. You can live well within or even below your means and give away whatever extra you have left over.
And you think you're going to do another mission trip, kids? You're going to do another orphanage run? And yeah, wow, amazing. Thank you so much. Maybe it's not always about dollars and cents, but we need to put the heart back in the housing market. More after this. Well, we had a couple of interesting challenges today about how can we face the housing crisis with faith. First of all, there were millennials who challenged us today that house sharing is a very livable option, and it forces people to do life together in a family way. Well, and others challenged us to live in the way that puts the heart back into the housing market, to get personal about a transaction for a home. Well, no matter which way you look at it, houses are getting less affordable and people are being forced to sacrifice a lot to find an affordable place to live. So what can we do? Governments are trying to implement new policies and many people are putting up with long commutes so they can buy houses. But is there another way? Perhaps we can look at the example of the early Christian church. They lived in community. They shared resources and they gave to everyone as they had need. And the early Christians did not place a lot of worth on material items, but focused more on the people and the community they were creating. It takes a lot of imagination, takes a lot of patience, and yes, it does take a deep rootedness that our identity is actually in God and not in a house. And it's going to take a little bit to fix a housing crisis, so instead of focusing on what you and I each need, maybe we need to look around and consider, what does the community need? Do you need the extra bedroom? Could you offer to rent it to someone else? Are you lonely living in a mostly empty house? Would you consider sharing it with others? Perhaps if we change our relationship with our housing and think of houses as less of a place to live and more of a place to build community, The possibilities for solving the need for affordable housing are absolutely endless. Okay, lots of more interesting ideas on the website. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.